we have Mr. McCook number 2 in store today.
Yeah, this one probably trumps the young generational one we had in.
For sure. And you probably... Well, no, that one didn't... He didn't play football, did he?
No, he didn't.
He didn't?
No.
I bet. I don't know. He probably ran into him, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have... I mean, I feel like you're a big person.
I am a big person.
Well, in that case, we're all a little, a little larger than life in the room. That's what.
Yeah. So today we have with us Jeff Gross. His resume is longer than what I can say, so we'll have him tell you all about that here in a second. But first, Jeff, we always like to do a little warm up.
Okay.
It's intense.
Okay.
Actually, no, yours is actually really nice. Okay. So I won't.
Oh, good job. Thank you.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like,
softer side.
Yeah, softer side of me.
Okay, here we go.
And it kind of scares me a little bit. I don't know why. Football coaches just... Did you ever teach history?
I did not.
Oh, no.
Well, that's a new thing.
That is a new thing.
Yeah, okay.
Because who was it that was saying...
Every football coach is a history teacher. Who said that?
History or weights is the
Conroy.
common thing.
It was
Cherokee.
Cherokee Conroy
said
said that. Mm-hmm. Did you coach that guy?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, my man.
Gosh, I can't wait for these stories.
I know.
This is going to be good.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we're going to ask you just a few random questions.
Okay.
And then you're just going to answer them.
Okay.
So first off, what's a movie that you've seen at least 3 to 5 times?
In the last month? No.
In your life?
In my life, I watch all the time. My favorite movie is Used Cars, Kurt Russell.
What?
This is a movie or
This is a
show?
movie, yeah.
Okay, Used Cars.
Used Cars, go watch it.
Classic.
I love
I'm
Kurt
going to have to
Russell.
write this down. I know, Kurt Russell.
He's
On his genre, the Big Trouble in Little China, same, just great movies.
That's another movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might have to have movie marathon. I don't know either of these.
I don't know any of these.
No, I don't
Used
either.
Cars, though, is the number one.
Absolutely.
Why?
It's just slapstick comedy. Just,
okay, that
it's
sounds like
just
us.
good stuff for
That's
me.
okay.
Yeah, I
Sounds
just like it a lot.
Okay,
so.
Used Cars.
Okay.
It's definitely not PG. You guys,
We're not.
I don't
definitely.
think
We're
there's
not
anything
PG.
I watch that is
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah. Do you collect anything?
No, not really. I mean, I dabble in a little bit. I've got a few guns because I hunt, and if I collected anything, it would be hats. Over the years, if I saved them all, I'd have thousands. But I'll collect them all, and then eventually I'll just sell them or throw them away and start over. But I'm kind of a hat junkie, and I don't wear one that often. But I
Like
still
ball caps.
Ball caps.
Wait, so your wife doesn't get rid of them?
No, she lets me. We have if I opened a drawer in our garage, I'm pretty organized, so I have a drawer that's just completely stuffed full of hats. So
What a good
that's
wife.
probably
Because like my husband, he starts to get a collection. I'm like, I sneak them out to Goodwill.
I don't think I'd even think about touching them.
No?
No, yeah. Does McCook, do they get a different, logo every year? So,
we've kind of become like Nebraska over the years is the MC or the, we call it our Bison head. It's the saber from the Buffalo Sabres years ago. That's kind of it.
Okay,
and so
okay.
you can only try to spice up something so much. So you just go with the MC and call it good.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. If I was to give you $1 million right now, what would you buy?
Well, what would I buy?
Yes.
What would I buy? Land, because there's only so much of it.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any around here, but yeah.
Wherever you can find
Wherever you can find it.
Yeah.
For
that
real.
leads into the next question. What is your favorite hunting season?
Turkey. I'm an avid turkey hunter. Our family, we own land down in Kansas and then here, so I'll try to every year shoot my Kansas and Nebraska birds. So it's kind of a
Very nice.
passionate thing with my group. I got a group of friends all the way from high school, and we meet every year and spend a week together in the woods. And
Awesome.
then raised my son DJ. Him and I go, so I'll try to make sure I have at least 5 or 6 different hunting trips to
That's awesome.
bag a
Bow?
bunch of birds.
Do you bow turkey?
Um,
Or-
I crossbow a little bit,
Okay.
but mainly shotgun. He bows, and a bunch of my buddies do. So, just not the bow hunter guy.
Where we live, the turkeys run rampant. Like my son tries to catch them afoot.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
they're crazy.
This will be my littlest one's first year to go.
Turkey hunting.
Each girl's gotten one so far. No, actually, she got one last year. I take that back.
Yeah.
We took her out of school.
Oh.
Is that frowned upon?
Oh yeah, no, I
Yes.
took DJ out of school, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Is it true that you're a Dallas Cowboys fan?
absolutely, die hard from a little kid. So
How do you find these things out?
I know people.
How would your past players describe you?
I think passionate. I think
I don't know if
personal. I developed relationships with those guys. I mean, I would hope that those guys from years ago, we become friends. It's not just you'll always be coach, but the relationships that you built, especially in those early years with kids. I've been in players' weddings. I've been the host couple. Just developing that kind of relationship to where it's a lifelong bond. You dial the phone and they answer and yell coach right in, so I'd rather be known about that than, and trust me, there's plenty of the stories they can all give you about, Coach Gross going nuts or this or that, or all the stories that come associated with a sport like football, combative. But I would hope that it was the personal relationship and give them some life lessons. Mm-hmm. So,
what is your biggest career success story?
I think, this is one of my mottos when I got into coaching, and I think it's what I pride myself the most on, and it's not winning a championship, or it's just consistency. I wanted our kids to be consistent. When we came to practice, we were consistent. They knew what we were doing. When we showed up on Friday night, we were consistent and we won. If I'm proud of, statistical stuff, I coached for 23 years and ended up with an 80% winning percentage, 210 wins and only 50 losses. That's consistent.
Right.
So, we won some big games. Mm-hmm. We lost some big, we got to the championship 5 times and won 2 and lost 3. We made the semifinals 10 times, won 5, lost 5, but it was consistent. We were always there. So when people ask me that one secret, years ago, he's the head coach at was at Hutch JUCO and it's been all over. Anyway, it was at Fort Hays. He sat me down. He goes, "What's your one thing?" And I just said, be consistent in everything you do. What you do for us, what we did Tuesday night at 4:30, we're going to do it the first week. And if we're getting ready for the state finals, Tuesday at 4:30, we're doing the same thing. The kids know what to expect. And so that's something in the coaching world I'm ever so proud of is just developing that.
That's good.
So, and personal relationships.
Yes. Yeah.
That trumps everything. I believe that people talk about and say kids change. Kids don't change. It's the adults that change. So I don't care if I'm 54 now or when I was 29 years old when I became the head coach at McCook. It's me that would have changed over the years, not them. You've seen a lot of long time coaches in every single facet that have success because they build those relationships with kids. So
this is so good. I feel like this is a job interview
for us.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. Who was your greatest influence as a child?
My idol growing up and that influenced me a lot was Roger Staubach. And he was the cowboy. He was the Mr. Cowboy, the Dallas. But he was, a Navyman, a Heisman Trophy winner. And if you follow him at all, but as I besides that influence, your parents obviously, but I had a coach just like everybody. Why did I go into education? A coach. I had a coach that inspired me, and he was our defensive coordinator, was our head wrestling coach, and I got the pleasure of playing for him. And then I went to college, and within a couple years, I got the pleasure of getting hired as a young guy at 20 years old, and went in and got a coach with him for 8 years. That's cool. So he's passed, but his name was Bob Kuhn down in Hayes. He was just an idol. I still view him as an idol to this day, and he really left that lasting impact on me because you got to be inspired by somebody, and he's one that inspired me in the education world without a doubt, and the coaching.
That's awesome.
When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Grew up in a farming community, so always tried convincing myself I wanted to be in the ag. In fact, I went to college as ag business to be a county extension agent, but education and coaching was always passionate of mine, and so pretty soon I switched from ag business into the education field, really because the coaching took over my blood. And to be a coach, and I wanted to coach high school kids, I needed to be a teacher. And so but I really your goals change as you go, but it was education. But from the get-go, I knew at some point my goals were ultimately to be a high school coach and then to become a principal. And, so that's kind of was always my path. And when I got to McCook, I thought, I'm going to be here for 5 years. I'm going to coach. I'm going to have my master's done. I'm going to move on and go be a principal somewhere. And, you guys are kind of like me. You come to McCook, you fall in love with the community, decide it's a great place to raise kids. McCook afforded me the opportunity to move into administration as I have and have worked my way through. So there was no need to chase those dreams. I kind of believe in watering your own grass. It ain't greener somewhere else. I had a lot of job opportunities over the years to leave and go to bigger towns, bigger schools, but yeah, it's pretty hard to leave this. I find this a fascinating, great place. So.
I literally used that same term the other day. I was like, my grass is perfectly fine here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to go looking for the grass isn't greener for me.
Yeah, no, it is. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay, last question.
Okay.
If I was directing a movie, Lena and I were directing a movie about your life, who would you like the actor to be for you?
My buddies would all tell you John Belushi, but
could be an interesting movie.
Probably I don't. Boy, that's fun. That's a tough one in today. I'm not a movie buff in today's world to know, but I don't. Somebody that. John Candy. I mean, somebody that has a great sense of humor. I mean, I say that looking for a bigger guy. It doesn't have to be personality looks, but, somebody that equates across all spectrums. And I think that's what I've tried to do in my career. So
that was all the questions. That was you did really good. Good
That's
warm up.
Good. Wow, that's warm up. Okay.
Wow. That was 12 minutes of just straight, lots of knowledge there. So where did you grew up in Nebraska?
I grew up in Kansas, Hays, Kansas. So, grew up, my dad farmed and worked was an electrician with the Bell Corporation, Southwestern Bell. And just eventually, as I said, my path was through school and stayed home and went to Fort Hays. And a couple years in, the school needed some coaches and I applied and lo and behold, I started coaching and kind of did that, junior high to freshman to within a couple years, I was a varsity. So I'd coached 3 years already before football. Was it football? And okay. I was football, and I was the head American Legion baseball coach down in.
I heard that as well.
Hays,
So you were a baseball coach first.
Used to be baseball was my passion, and still am a diehard baseball person. But when you become so inundated in football, that's so time consuming that it just kind of had to give one or the other. And so I took the football path, was out of education for 5 years. So when I graduated, my father passed away right about the time I was finishing up college. So I stayed and ran the family farm and kept coaching. And then I hooked on didn't want to move because I was still taking care of the farm, and I hooked into a medical company. It was a home health care and nursing agency, and worked my way up through those 5 years into the operations management of the company, and it's where I met my wife. So I
feel like this
it was a point of my life that not a lot I want to remember or think about other than the fact that I did meet Diana. She came to work for the company and in the HR department, and we kind of started dating, and then we got married, and the kind of a traumatic experience. We got married. She was pregnant with Lexi, and the company gets sold, and they called me in and they sent me out to lay off 180 people in 2 days. And the first person I had to start with was her. So I laid my wife off, went on a plane from town to town and laid all these people off. And the next day I stayed home to take her to appointment, check up with the doctor for the baby. And they called me while I'm at the doctor and say to call the office. They laid me off over the phone. And so when I got done, it was like, oh my.
We're about to have our first baby.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So then the funny story of how did it come to be McCook, Bob Fuller was the head coach and principal in McCook. And is that relation to like Fuller's?
No,
No, it's
really?
not. It's not.
Interesting. Okay.
So Bob Fuller, friend of mine for years, had coached up all over. I mean, I knew him because his son played at Fort Hays. He had just left McCook to become the new head coach at Hays. And so him and I were already working together. I was going to be an assistant for him. Well, I called him up and I said, Bob, man, I got to find a job. My wife and I both got laid off, bought a house, expecting a baby. And he goes, well, we haven't hired him at McCook yet. He goes, send your resume in to, at the time, Larry Mollring was a longtime AD. Well, within a matter of 2 weeks from sending my resume in to boom, I got offered the job. And so kind of a funny story was I would bring a load of Bob's stuff I'd bring a load of my stuff from Hays to McCook, and then I'd load some of his and drop them off. So we kind of moved each other, and we both had common friends, and all of the coaches were friends of him and the coaches in Hays. So we kind of helped introduce each other to the community, and still to this day consider him a mentor. But that's kind of how the whole McCook crazy story.
Crazy.
You kind of never know your path, and I accepted the job in McCook. We signed the papers. We went home and put our house up on the market at like 9 a.m, and at 1 o'clock it had sold for asking price.
If that's not a sign?
Yeah, it was a sign.
Oh,
it was kind of
sure.
God's taking care of us. This is all going
that's
to work
right.
out.
It's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
That's great.
So.
Did your wife, was she able to get a job when she moved up here, or did you?
When she first came here, she bounced around a little bit at some different stuff until eventually she became the HR manager over at Tri-Valley in Cambridge, and then switched to McCook. So those first few years were a little taxi, and I'm the football coach. I was coaching wrestling at the time, teaching alternative ed. She's working in Cambridge. We have 2 little kids, so you guys know, you've all been there. I'm working on my master's and coaching
Great
multiple sports. So when the new generation of teachers and coaches say, I can't do that, it's too much, boy. you don't know, especially with it online. I was driving to Kearney for classes while doing that. So
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So the
You're not that old.
No, one of those first summers though, I was, running the weight room, get up at 6 a.m, run the weights till 10. I'd get in the car. I'd have to be at Kearney for class from 1 to 4. I'd get back, have weights at 4:30, and then have McCook Football League at night. So that was a long summer. But you had to do what you had to do to get yourself moved on the pay scale to take care of your future. For your future, for your family.
you gotta struggle a little bit before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was that a dark time, like when you both lost your jobs? Or in the whole scheme of you lost your dad early, I would say. Like, what was that time like?
It was I would say leading through the years I was out of education and things, I was kind of lost in the fact I wasn't sure my path. I knew I wanted to be a head football coach, but I was in a path that wasn't leading me there.
Right.
So from that standpoint, I would say that. But once her and I started dating, and once Diane and I set a future together, even though that was traumatic, losing our jobs, we still were young and in love, and we were going to get through it no matter what.
That's
and
awesome.
and then that led to the best decisions that ever happened of coming here and raising a family. So I wouldn't say darker days than obviously the last 25 years living in McCook, at least. But it was really happened early March, and by late April, I was the head football coach at McCook. So it all worked out. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's a great lesson. Like, so many people get stuck in that thing that happens in the moment when that can be the blessing in the end. If you wouldn't have lost your job, McCook, that window of it being open and that opportunity may not have been.
Yeah, and it was, I had like two or three interviews right in a row right through there. I'd applied at Colby, Kansas and Belleville, Kansas, and actually went and interviewed at a military school in Salina, St. John's Military Academy.
Thank goodness you got the good state of Nebraska.
Yeah, it just worked. I got up, and I think I'd been to Nebraska once in my life through that. So, and a funny story is you talk about where McCook is and the travel.
Yeah.
Well, I was at a bigger school in Kansas. I mean, Hays is like a North Platte type. And, we played Liberal and Garden and Dodge and, Great Bend. You're familiar with all those from the Jayhawk League. And I thought the travel was really bad there. And I took this job and I pulled the map out and I'm thinking, Scotts Bluff, and I look, and then Gehring and Alliance.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy moly. That was an adjustment, learning to live, on a bus.
Yeah.
So
on a bus in Central Time Zone.
Yes.
That's my thing.
Playing Mountain
Playing
Time
Mountain
Zone.
Time Zone. Ooh.
So
Yeah. I have so many questions. Going back to like you saying, your first years of coaching and how you did all these things, you were doing the weight room and all that. I think one thing like with coaches, and you might be different in the high school, but younger coaches, they don't realize that you have to have that little bit of grind before you get where it's a little bit easier.
Oh, yeah.
It's like all these younger coaches, they think they're just going to jump right in and it's going to be
Well, they come out of college and they want to be a coordinator or head coach.
Yeah, and it's you gotta
pay your price.
You gotta grind a little bit first.
I just knew when I started coaching and the coach said, "Hey, go fold the game jerseys and put them away, or go hang the, whatever, or go wash the clothes." Man, I was excited. That's part of coaching. It didn't matter, you know. Hey, go take this diagram and draw 40 of them for me instead of using a copier. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Because to me, it was part of the job. It was exciting. And you don't find that now. I actually, towards the last few years of my career, I was amazed to myself at how much more of the little things I took on as my longtime older coaches were retiring and I was bringing new guys in. I was doing more of the little stuff than I had even when I started. And it is because it's just a generational change. That's I don't want to put anybody down, but some of the duties almost seem like they're beyond them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I'll wash laundry every now
absolutely.
and then. I'm like, this is part of it.
Yeah.
So I have so many questions, Lena.
How do you, when you're dealing with young players coming onto the team who maybe aren't going to get the playing time that they want or get what they feel they're owed, just what you shared, how do you talk them through like, hey, this is just as part of it? Like,
I think that from, and the quirky line that you hear at McCook High School that I brought years ago, "We are one," it's easy to say it's a saying, but it has to become part of your fiber, and you have to start them when they're young, understanding that, every single person on the field is important. The kid that never plays, if I don't have him to practice against, who am I going to practice against? In a couple of those state championship teams, the best team we ever faced was every week in practice because they were ready to play the following year. So you just got to keep selling that mentality. And then when you have that, it's the point I would make to you, Lena, would be the fourth year, the senior that very rarely gets to play, but he's come out every year. You just got to keep convincing him how important he is to the team. You got to make sure that the leadership on the team treats him as important. And then the first opportunity, one of the most heart-stricken I ever had, it was towards the end of my career. I know it was 2018. We were playing Hastings, and we were ahead 42-0 at half. And the game got over, and we were all talking, and one of my coaches told me, I never got John Doe in, and he's a senior, and it just broke my heart. I mean, I needless to say, had a pretty stern lecture for the coach, and then went over and made sure I met with the kid and the parents and said, it just happened. We're sorry, it won't ever happen again. I think you gotta be genuine in that. You truly got to treat those kids as a major part of the team in everything you do, because it is a lot of work and effort, and everybody lives in a world of gratification. There's no gratification not playing on game day.
Right.
So.
I don't remember, I was talking to one of his past players one time, and I asked this very similar question, and he answered it something along the lines like, every one of us is important on our team, but we got to know like how we are important to our team, and like you made it very clear to them. So
I mean, there's only one starting. It's easy to say there's only one starting quarterback, but there's literally only one starting left tackle too. And I always tried to believe that we were better in numbers, so I hoped to always have 20 to 25 seniors. And there's always a place on the football field to sneak a kid in somewhere and try to give them a part. That's not as easy when you're talking about a 6 foot, 250-pound lineman. There's not a lot of special teams that call for that position. So then you got to play him in the first quarter or the second quarter and not have to have that mentality to hold on and play him at the end of the game. Football is, because of all those positions, we do have the easier job. I had a coach here years ago, and his kid was just could tell he was never going to be a great wide receiver or DB. He was short. He was little and he was slow. Not a great combination. Convinced him as a sophomore to become a holder. Started for 3 years for us as a holder. I always told him, you're our all-state holder. We got the best holder in the world, and that's really all he did. But man, he was important to the team because we found that role for him.
Which and sometimes you have to do that. You got to like look at what they have and what they can give, and then move them.
Yeah.
Do you know, like off the top of your head, how many players that you coached that went on to play college football?
Oh, at one point I was keeping track of it, and then I kind of stopped. It well in the 50s, 60s. Yeah. You know, awesome. we've had 10 to 11 Division I, and the Division II would be just a massive list between Shadron and Kearney and Fort Hays, and you know that level of school. It used to be UNO. We put a lot of kids to UNO. And then the GPAC, we supply them regularly. So we've had a lot of kids. I think in 2002, when we won the state championship, we had 10 kids in the spring of 2003 commit to colleges off of one team. And they don't all stick.
That's so cool.
But when you got that many kids.
But still,
you know. So, but I know that number's large. Mm-hmm. It's a large number. You know, and when you win and you have kids of that caliber, then they're going to get looked at.
Yeah.
You're a college coach. Where are you going? You're going to, you're McCook's 12-1 or 13-0 every year, or no disrespect if they're listening, you're driving down and, Holdridge up the road or Lexington is 2-7. You're not stopping there. Exactly. You're coming in. Yeah. And so, that afforded our kids a lot. And then with that becomes relationships. Mm-hmm. So I had great relationships with all the college coaches. And it's funny because, and not taking anything away from Coach Vitrosky right now, but I have the relationships with the colleges, so they're still calling me. Yeah. They're recruiting Adam Duggar right now, and Eli Kaler, and the Gomez Wilson brothers, and these guys, because they know me, they're calling me, telling me about them. Yeah. And so I always say, now make sure you bring Coach Vitrosky into the loop.
Well, I think it'd be pretty hard to completely step away. I mean, you've stepped away from coaching, but you're still gonna have those connections. People are still gonna,
absolutely.
Yeah, you're still probably going to games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe.
Yeah, I
besides September 9th, you can come to our event.
Yep.
Instead of homecoming.
Yeah, which
do
we
they
found
play
out
football on that night? Just kidding. Yeah.
I'll be in Washburn. I'm sorry. I'll be at Topeka on September 9th and 10th. So, and that was a big thing for me getting out is the ability to go.
Watch
I coached all these kids,
yeah, for sure.
and I wanted to go watch
your son play.
My own son. And my last year of coaching, we played in Plattsmouth, and it was COVID, and the MIAA had canceled most of their season, but they played a game down in Pittsburgh, Kansas, at Pitt State, and so we took the trek and went and rode the bus, coached in Plattsmouth, and then got on a bus and ended up in Pittsburgh, Kansas at 3 a.m, and the game was at 11, and they played, and then right back because you got football work and things to do. It's like it's not fair to multiple people. Number one, my wife. She's been a loyal soldier all those years. It's not fair to her. It's not fair if I miss my son's game, and it's not fair to the team if I'm so wore out and tired. And I've watched a million films over. It used to be VHS. We would have to do VHS in the car. That's not easy. We'd have the little TV with the player, and then it turned into DVDs in the computer to now everything's on Huddle or digital. But it's still just being there. And then having to always be back on Sunday to get ready for, and when I was the principal, that magnified that. My work for football had to be done on the weekend because I didn't have as much time during the week because you're administering and leading a building of 500 kids and 50 staff members. So, that magnified it and just knew it was time.
Mm-hmm. Did it change your passion for teaching when you were able to kind of leave the field and kind of change your role because now you were focusing on less, I guess? Does that help me understand your question? Like when you no longer had to be the coach, okay, and you're stepping into a new role, and so more focused on the building and the kids, and not that you weren't before, but you have that one less, I don't want to say distraction, but that one less thing that you had that consumed a lot of your time and energy.
That was part of my rationale between when the business manager job at McCook came open and I was already thinking it was time to get out of football. As long as I was the principal and the building leader, I was still going to have to be at everything. I mean, you're at everything. So when I knew that was happening, I thought I can make a clean break mentally because my schedule's going to be freed up to allow me to go to Washburn, allow me to go to Pittsburgh State, and my job's going to change. And then it's also a little bit of selfishness by being in the role I'm in. I'm not in front of those kids every day. So it kind of took the pain away, the sting away. Sure. Last year, I went on vacation the week that McCook had their first football camp in town. Didn't want to look out the window. Just didn't.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, you know,
it'd be hard.
You know, probably I got through the retirement thing, or I'm not retired. I got through the not coaching thing really easy. The hardest thing I did last year of any of it was McCook's, high school football starts the week before college, and McCook had a home opener, and my nephew, Mitch's son's playing, and all the coaches are my guys. Joe played for me, coached with me, had to be there. And all the people from all over the state, my buddies that have retired, they all said, don't go, don't go, don't go. Well, I went, and it was hard. Yeah. Even though the guys put a headset on me and I got upstairs and I was helping them, it was different. I didn't know my place. Yeah. And then we went the next week right away to Crete, did the same thing. And then we got to the car after the game and I told Diana, I said, I gotta stay away for a while. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing some other stuff. I went to, Jace Doolin, a former player of mine's over at Cozad. I went and watched Cozad Adams Central. I went to Minden to watch a longtime friend of mine, Coach Gum, coach, and just had to move away from the Bison for a little bit. But everything's way easier now because I'm at peace with my decision. And I truly, this is hard to believe, you'll get there. I'm good. It was time to be done. Okay. It was time to be done. So that doesn't mean I won't coach again. Whenever I do pull the plug on being a, business manager or if, wherever the road takes me, but there's always a passion. I can always go back and coach again. Yeah. So one thing I recognize now being out is even if I go back, it would be really hard to ever be a head coach again because of that commitment. Mm-hmm. And you know what I'm talking about, the difference of being a head and assistant. Yeah. So
my goal is always to coach as long as my kids are in school.
Yeah.
And then when they get to college, then maybe that's the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, and, we had a ball last year. Hunter Hayes plays it at McCook grad plays at UNK. And Zach Schlager, who's kind of like my own son. I mean, Russ and Bev are great friends, and so we have a great. We got 3 McCook kids, and we traveled together, and Brad and Molly, and we went last year to Central Missouri, and then we went to Chiefs games, and we went down to, the plaza, and we messed around in Oklahoma City. We had plans. So we turn every weekend into an event instead of just running to a game. September 1, the Lopers play in Missouri Southern, and we've already got reservations in Branson for the whole weekend.
I have players that are playing at Missouri Southern this year.
Awesome.
So it's been, the changeover's been good. It's been good for the family and good for everything. I think probably was the hardest on my daughter, Lexi, because she's viewed me forever as, it's all she's ever known, the football coach and then the principal. And so it was, of the family, it was kind of hard on her. Yeah. DJ was good at it. And DJ wants to be a head football coach, kind of one of those, and he's going into education. I guess if there's one of those retirement dream things is he gets his own job and I can go help him, take orders from him, see how that goes.
Yeah, that's cool.
So since we've had some of your past players on here, let's pick on them a little bit.
Okay.
Why did you pick Josh Cherry to be a kicker when the guy can't even touch his toes?
The flexibility is horrible.
So we remember. So we heard.
Yeah.
We had a kicker, Trent Lyons, Chad Lyons in town, his son. Trent was an all-state kicker, and he was coming up and kicked all the time, and Josh just kind of got passionate about it. And, I'm friends with his dad, and we kind of started talking, and so we just kind of hooked him up, and he started kicking. And I know it's weird that a kicker would be unflexible, but man, that ball got off of his foot like nobody's business. And so, people talk about if in the realm of football, Omaha Central for years was known as I-back high. And it was kind of funny because we used to always laugh. McCook, if you're known, it's kicker high, because there was a 6 or 7 year period. We had the super state, all Nebraska. I mean, the top dog in Nebraska, like 5 of those years between Josh, between Trent Lyons. We just had Bryce Lyons was a super state kicker. Matt Chitwood was an unbelievable kicker. And I'm going to leave some out. We had so many kickers, many years in a row. Chad Stoll was a really good kicker. Jeff Lorenz. I mean, just a lot of names over the years. We just always had a good kicker.
Was there anything with Josh that set him aside from other players?
The athleticism, the size, he played at K-State and was a Big 12 kicker, but man, he was a really good athlete. He was a really, really good safety, and he was a really, really good quarterback, or could have been a wide receiver if we chose. He had a lot of athleticism, but above and beyond what set Josh aside was his competitiveness. Yeah. You guys, everybody sees the fun-loving, quirky, but man, get him back to a corner and watch him come fighting out of there. He's as competitive as they can be, and if you are around the Cherry family at all, that comes natural. I mean, that's how his dad is, very competitive. And so, Josh is one of those guys that, I've grown up with the family and things, but very, very close, and do a lot of stuff together with still today.
Any good stories on Josh you could tell us?
Oh, not over the radio, probably.
This is explicit.
I would believe that. I would believe that.
Just a funny from yesterday is, I don't know, they're I don't want to release all their secrets, but they got a new business coming out.
We've already heard about it.
We've already heard about it. So cherry picker. So I helped them unload all their crates and get them off the truck, and the stuff's coming in. Yeah. And, I guess I don't want to be X-rated or anything, but I was down there over lunch period yesterday, and we're ripping into boxes, and they're like kids in a candy store. Guys, they're 28 pallets full of everything in America. Yeah. And I said to him, just joking, when I was getting ready to leave, I said, boy, you let me know when you open up that first box that came from Adam and Eve or Dr. John's, right? Because, it wasn't 20 minutes later, I get a text of a picture of some stuff, and I just laughed. So.
Oh my gosh. That is hilarious. We're gonna have to text you.
Oh, that is so awesome.
We would like a first discount.
Yeah. So funny stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's so
just
funny.
Spent a lot of time with them. So great family. He was a good football player, and we had some great memories. In 2006 was his senior year. I got named to coach in the U.S. All-American game, which has since changed over and is now the Under Armour game. You got the Army, the Army game and the Under Armour game, and Josh was the player I took with me, and we spent 8 glorious days in Shreveport, Louisiana, down there as families and stuff. It was between Christmas and New Year. The game was on December 30th, and
cool though.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
No, it was on January 2nd. So because we spent New Year's Eve down there.
Oh, that's so
great,
cool.
great memories, and obviously you develop a bond when you spend that much time together.
That's awesome. Okay, what about Cherokee Conroy? He claims he's like Cherokee is Christian. Yeah. He claims he's like a natural athlete. You can be honest with us.
Not a lot of athletic in that body. I would always. How do I put it? We call him Shock Me Conroy. It's a thing from my son. That's what I call him, Shock Me Conroy. So, he outkicked his coverage with his wife.
Oh, yes,
he outkicked his coverage, being able to. He started as a senior on the offensive line for us, and so I don't know. Maybe our line coach just loved him to death, but not a lot of. he had the perfect role, but being I think he was an 8-year pitcher for MCC.
Yeah,
is that right?
I
Is that how
think
long
so.
he was
I
there?
think that's how
So,
many
yeah, we
seasons
like to
he
give
was in
him-
there. I've looked at his transcript. He's got every associate's degree possible. Yeah.
You know what? He was. He's one of those kids that who can't love Chris. I mean, he's a great guy, and
that's right.
When he was kind of floundering around a little bit about career path, it's like that's when I hired him as a para, got him into the alternative school. You're going to sit here and you're going to take care of at-risk kids, which he's so good with, and you're going to get your degree and you're going to take classes. And so that was one of those mentor-mentee things where there wasn't a lot of option. No, Chris, you're going to do this. We got him involved in coaching football. He even helped girls basketball for a while. He's helped with track. He's done a little bit of everything. Obviously worked at the ballparks, but sometimes you see things in our athletes and our kids, and you know what they need to be. And Chris needs to be in education because he's such a difference maker for kids.
He's so good. Yeah.
So But going back to the original question, not a lot of.
What did he call himself? Did he call himself a natural athlete?
He did call himself a natural athlete.
Yeah. Something.
Natural. I have all these natural abilities.
Yeah.
No, genetically gifted.
He's genetically gifted at growing facial hair in a hurry. That's his gift.
He is.
That is.
He is very.
And I guess
something to brag about.
What about? Did you coach Smalley and Holtis?
I coached Holt. Smalley. My first year here, Scott would have been.
Scott is pretty old.
Yeah, I think he would have been a sophomore or junior. I'd have to go back and coached him for 1 year. He didn't come out his senior year. But Jeff was one of my guys. Jeff is probably one of my most emotional moments as a head coach. Jeff and I very close, have a great relationship. But Jeff started as a junior at cornerback and was just a stalwart of our defense. But we had 3 really, really, really good corners, and the other 2 guys were a little bit littler. Ben Klug was a super state guy. Dr. Klug, I should say.
Sorry, Ben?
Young Dr.
He's like
Klug.
Little.
Yeah, well, he has our school record for interceptions and went on was all conference at Hastings. Him and Jeff started, and we had another kid that didn't come out as a sophomore that came back as a junior named Adam Koch, where Alan Koch were the sheriff's son. And Koch ended up being just this unbelievable, and somebody had to move. So I went to Jeff and asked him to move to outside linebacker. And we utilized his coverage skills and things in some schematic stuff we did, and just was a huge benefit for us. Jeff was a fabulous player. A funny story about Jeff is that Jeff gets nervous. I mean, he's a nervous Nelly. And over the years, there were multiple times. First off, he's always finding the porcelain before the game. Just was that kind of kid. And then several times he would get so nervous, a coach would be running him in to find a bathroom, during the game. Get a sub in for Holtis. He's going to be out for a little bit.
Gosh, poor kid. I know the feeling, buddy. I know the feeling. Our players, when they have to come in that first day and they have to run, like the mile, and they're all like, is there a bathroom around? And we're at the track, usually at the high school. I'm like, there are no bathrooms here, babe. Like,
probably, but not the sad story. But when I say emotional moment was, when you're a young coach, you're trying to get to the semifinals are way bigger than the finals. You got to get to the show. And I mean, I love these kids, and we're passionate, and we're playing Aurora semifinals, and we are just whipping their butt. I mean, just whipping their butt. And in the middle of the third quarter, Jeff gets undercut, and he breaks both bones in his leg in a pretty horrific accident. And so the ambulance is carting him off, and heck, the ambulance ain't even out the gate. And then Spencer Walter Plumbing, Spence runner in town. Spence is our running back, 1,000-yard rusher, and he gets bent over backwards, and he completely same type of injury, but even more horrific to where his toes were touching the back of his leg. And so you're sitting out there, we're winning handily and this, and you lose your starting outside linebacker and wide receiver. Now you lose your starting middle linebacker and leading tackler and 1,000-yard rusher, and so just a lot of emotion going on in the body, and the next play we get hit, we get Spencer hauled off the field, and the next play we ran a we got in the wishbone and ran an ISO. I can remember to this day, and Trent Lyons ran it in for a touchdown, and the exclamation was sealed. But that whole night, you're bawling with tears of excitement and emotion because you're going to the championship,
right.
but then you're just really upset for Spence and for Jeff.
They didn't
get a play in the finals, but you know what? They became great heroes and leaders for the. We had a couple really, like I said, our best team we played all year. We practiced against, so we had a couple great juniors, Alan Shires and Kyle Bedore, that stepped up, and we waltzed our way through the finals, and then those guys the next year. So
I think the coolest thing, just like listening to coaches, is like you remember.
That
was like 04, 06,
yes.
and like you remember their names,
I was
you remember
02,
the play.
yeah.
Their
Or 203, yeah.
Some of their
There's,
stats,
that's
it's like, wow.
same thing. Like there's like some plays I just like remember in my head, and
and you go back.
You coach a lot more people than I do,
and you have some special talents and special kids, but it's very rarely you get that group. And forever that 02, God, this is 20 years. We were actually talking about having a reunion, but I think we're going to hold off to 25. But you sometimes you get a special group, and then you sit back 20 years later and you think about that. So we have 2 or 3 doctors on one team. We have a couple engineers. We have, the guys that, I had 17 seniors this year, and if you looked at their lives 20 years later, the things they've went on and accomplished,
that's so cool.
It's really cool to sit back and think about that,
That's awesome.
And guys that own businesses, and we had move-ins along the way that helped. We had a really good quarterback. These guys did when they were young, and he moved out. And then the next year we had a kid moved in, Cray Dutoit. He is actually the president and one of the main owners of GTA Insurance. Cray was he was the straw for us. He was the missing link when he got here, and we just took off. And he's surrounded with all those kids, and it's been pretty exciting, and it's cool because they're all ingrained in the community. I can't go by. You can't. I'll tell you this, and now you can't go by Jolton Joe's without seeing the Bison 45.
Yes.
Well, that's
so cool.
the original. It was Stuart Frazier, our fullback middle linebacker, and then Sam came later with the same number and things. So our football program's enriched. Farrells. We win our first state championship with one of the Farrell boys on the team. And the previous time they'd won the state title was when his grandpa played in 1946.
How cool is that?
Just
so
connections
awesome.
throughout
So
that.
awesome.
Ingrained.
And you just, you said like businesses in town. Like just think of like you coached Josh Cherry, you coached Nick Nothnagel.
He had him in school. He didn't play football, but ingrained in what he did, and just like Siegfried at the Copper Mill, and you start going down. One thing that this is a school thing. This is a community thing, but we as a school made a huge emphasis to start bringing our alumni back years ago. If you go down the hallways at McCook High School and the teachers and start looking, and that's not just McCook, it's elementary, it's everywhere. All those alumni coming back.
That's awesome.
When Jeff Holtis was coming out, and he got a degree and was working on a degree, and we got him into education. It's like I'm going after Jeff and Caitlin. We got them back. We've gotten Jeremy Young back, and Richard Smock, and Joe Vitrowski, Ben Vitrowski, Joel Arterburn. I'm going to leave people out. Chris Conroy. You just keep bringing those kids back.
And you think so that was like kind of a part of coaching, and now it's also a part of your new role. Like you're because you got to see how much they grew, like you said, from athletics to where they are now. That's pretty cool.
It is cool. And and probably from a standpoint, those last couple of years when I coached, when all my longtime older coaches that we had this, when they all went away, I kept replacing them one by one with graduates, to where our 08 team might have been one of the, we didn't get it done, we lost in the semis, but just an immense amount of talent. I ended up with 4 guys on my coaching staff off of that one team, with Jake Curl and Matt Barry and Joe Vitrowski, and Zach Weezer coached for a little bit here and is still helping in basketball, and so that just was kind of that was almost the next wave after that. And in between, we've got guys coaching, like I said, Jace Doolin coaches, a head coach at Cozad, and Jeff Lister, Mitch Lister, if you know Mitch, his son is a coach down in Lawrence. Yeah. I mean, and those guys, that's family to me. Those guys are all ingrained through there.
So cool. So cool.
And we'll bring a new wave. Some of the kids I've hit the last few years are still in college, and they'll be coming out and get to follow their path. I helped line up Morgan Favre just a couple weeks ago. He does track at Chadron State, and the Chadron High coach called me and kind of got him hooked up. And Morgan's coaching high school football at Chadron High this fall. So
awesome.
yeah,
that is really
so
awesome.
just kind of keep everybody into the game as much as you can.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we've come to the part of the show where we play a little bit of Lena Says.
Okay.
And I kind of explained this to you a little bit earlier on. Do you need time to think about one?
No, I have a good one.
Ooh, okay.
I have a good one.
I'm ready to go. Well, I'm not, but Lena is.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, go.
So this is going to play off of something we talked about in a couple different facets earlier, but you have a curly-haired, puffy kid that is not real fast, not real flexible, talks a lot,
Wait,
distracts a lot.
This is just a made up.
Okay, it's just made up,
Yep.
hypothetical,
Okay.
and he runs with all the guys they're playing and things, and you got to find a fit. What do you do with that kid? How do you get him ingrained into your team? How do you get him ingrained into society?
Lena says.
I feel like probably still trying, but his energy and his enthusiasm. I'm imagining this person is infectious.
I feel like I know this person.
I know, but we don't.
We don't. Okay.
We don't.
Okay, this is just a
But
scenario.
So much, and to me, attitude and personality brings so much. And so if he has that positive energy and that positive attitude, I feel like you can always make a place for that person. And regardless of how genetically gifted they may think they are, this imaginary person. But, I don't know a lot about football to know where to place him.
I would hide him in a special teams somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, right?
That sounds,
Isn't that
sure.
what-
I don't, that's,
Well, I think our original thought process was the guard on the field goal PAT unit. We could hide him there,
Or what did Josh Cherry do? He said he ran down the field and
who's
scared
that
people
guy?
or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
He could have been one of those.
Yeah.
The curly hair and fluffiness would have definitely scared me.
that scared
that
a
was
lot of
coming
people.
at me.
Yeah, but that's all hid under the helmet.
Good
so,
point. Unless
but
it
still.
was older and it went underneath.
Well, wasn't it? I heard it was really long in high school.
he had longer, absolutely.
So it might have.
longer,
There have been tufts of it coming out.
Or I probably would have been do you want to wrestle? Maybe the wrestling team would be a good
Please,
option.
yeah.
Wait, you also
Intimidation.
that was not working.
That was
not working.
Oh, what a blessing he would have been to any
you
team.
coached wrestling too.
I wrestled all through. God, from second grade to kindergarten. I got here.
Really?
Funny story is when I was hired, they needed a freshman girls basketball coach. And so I was going to be the head football freshman girls basketball coach. And a week before the season started, when football was over, the assistant wrestling coach's mother ended up with cancer, and he needed to bow out. And they came and said, would you rather coach wrestling or freshman girls basketball? Well, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Let me think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
But,
now,
and
yes.
then, if you're a lifelong wrestler like I was,
Yes.
loved wrestling and things, but the wrestling commitment in the winter, especially coming off of football, is so brutal that, two things happen. I don't want to delay your...
No, you're fine. You're
2002, we win the state title, and so I missed the first 2.5 weeks of wrestling, basically. And the wrestling coach at the time, Dean Reichs, close friend, longtime people around McCook know Dean. His son's playing for me, Nate. Ended up being all conference, all American type player for UNK. Great state champion wrestler. Anyway, he gets activated to the military. And so right after the first of the year, Dean gets sent away. We're in Desert Storm or the 2003 era, and he gets sent away. So I end up being the head wrestling coach. So then fast forward to the next year, I finished the year out. Fast forward the year, he's still not back. He's still not back. He's still not back. And football season's coming to a close. Well, we're we're 13-0 and in the state finals, playing for the state championship again. Well, back then the sports overlapped by a few weeks. So we were having wrestling practice at 6 a.m. for those that weren't on the football team.
Bless.
Practicing football afterwards. And then, I mean, we played the state championship used to be the Saturday before Thanksgiving. You know, Coach, Monday have check-in, Tuesday right to wrestling practice. So anyway, he finally came back, got back right around Christmas break of that year. We pulled some community people. Colt Hosick is still helping out. I kind of got him to help me, and Steve Bales was helping me run the program. But Dean got back, and I went into Larry Mulring and Rick Haney, was the AD at the time, and I convinced Rick, I go, what do you got to do to get me out of wrestling? And he said, well, I'll let you get out of wrestling if you coach track, but you got to coach track this year. And I'm like, oh, so I got out of wrestling, but then went straight into track in the spring. Yeah. And then after that, it balanced out from football.
I just don't picture you as a wrestling guy. Like, wrestlers are, like you said, they're like, you're a wrestler, you're a lifelong wrestler.
Yeah, and I love watching the sport and loved involved. Now when DJ came through, you want your kid to be
wrestle?
Well, I did the bad parenting move. I had him wrestle as a first and second grader, and he was okay. It maybe had a future. Well, I took him to the Western Kansas state championships, and he'd had like 4 matches in his life, and I took him down there and he just got beat on.
Oh, he was like,
he was already taller than everybody in the grade, and he's like, Dad, I think I want to play basketball. It's like, okay, so and then the flip side, and don't want to knock anybody in wrestling, but it's much nicer being a basketball parent where you're not living in that gym every single. You show up for a basketball game, it gets played, and you leave.
Right.
Show up for a wrestling meet, you wait for weigh-ins, you wait for brackets,
and you can eat Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, that's
in
right.
front of your child.
And the time I've coached at McCook and wrestling, and then I was a heavyweight wrestler, you're always last. So you're the last one to get your bracket, you're the last one to wrestle, you're the last one to get your medal, you're the last one to shower. So it was a big waiting game that I didn't have to go through in high school or with my kids. So
my husband was a wrestler.
Yeah. So
But
all sports, I'll watch all sports. You
Yeah.
know, I still am a baseball, we talked earlier, still a baseball junkie and go to games all the time. You know, I got a reason to go to Omaha to a lot of games now. With my daughter works for the Omaha Storm Chasers, so we go down there and follow
next time
everything
she comes
about
to visit, we should probably get both the Gross kids on here.
Yeah. Oh, that would be fun.
That would be fun.
Was there ever a time your wife was like, okay?
No, she loved being a coach's wife. She loved us being football.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she was the ultimate. I mean, Diana's, she's put up with, I always had the good sale job. Diana, I got to go to this 4-day clinic in San Antonio to work. I got to go learn about football. I got to go to the Glazier Clinic in Denver to learn about football. And she bought the line, hook and sinker, and let me go. Cool. She probably spent more money coaching football than I ever made. I mean, we get paid peanuts. And she put up with the fact that spent a large chunk of our kids' college funds on coaching clothes, and
for sure.
You know what I'm saying.
Oh, I know.
And I'm one of those. I'm a giver. So every Sunday night, all through football season, our coaches come over to my house. We have our meetings in our house. The coaches do take turns cooking and things, food. The wives bring food over, but just always have drinks and unlimited whatever. After game socials were at my house. I believe you got to give those guys that put their effort forth back to you. So
was that a normal thing, the Sunday night thing for all sports, or was that just a football thing?
That's a football
I think
thing.
It's a football thing.
And why is that? What's that?
And some schools go Saturday, or they may go Sunday mornings, or it's just what I knew. It worked best for me. I gave my coaches Saturday off. I said, Saturday's your day. You watch college football, go with your kids, go do whatever. But my rule for my coaches was at 10 o'clock Sunday morning, I had to have your work done on the computer. So I then had time to compile a game. And then Sunday night worked for us to put our game plan in and install. So it's just kind of always been that way. That's what I was wondering. What was okay. You got to, we're all, as much as we would love to be coaches full time, we all have other jobs, right. And once Monday morning hits, we're still educators first. Right. And I think that's one thing that has separated a lot of our coaches and success we had. You know, and when my longtime coaches, John Gum and Ron Coleman and Chad Lyons and Jeff Mulring and Dan Shires, these original guys that I had here, Russ Schlager, the reason we were all there, everybody was great coaches. They were great teachers first. You know, they're great in the classroom with kids, and that equates over. So
awesome. Well, this has been so enlightening. Thank you so much.
Talk for hours.
I know.
Rich Barnett and I can get on the radio talking because he
Yeah.
called every one of those games and
Yeah.
talk about kids and plays and
That's so cool.
and memories and stuff. So it is cool, and it's it's just a new generation. We just keep cheering for everybody and moving on. You know, the future's bright in McCook, and I love what I'm doing. If you drive around the schools right now, and it's not just me, other people save money, but in my new role, we put a huge emphasis on some facility upgrades. And man, drive by our track. It gets painted next week.
I've
the
heard.
stripes, it's
Yes,
gorgeous.
super
And our
excited.
parking lots and McCook High School gym, we put all new hoops and things in. And so just trying to keep giving that same passion instead of it being on the football field into the other things I do.
Well, if you ever feel like you need a coach again, I always have a spot. You could, just dip in.
That's the one sport I know the least
Super
about.
Fun. It's not. You don't even need to know anything.
I
It's
think
all
he's
about
a quick learner. So
it's a team. It's a team bonding thing.
Yeah.
It's all
Absolutely.
icebreakers every day. all day.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to leave us, 2 questions.
Okay.
What is your caffeine of choice?
Black coffee. I drink 2 things, black coffee and water, as I came in with a tea from the hub because I needed a little kick. But black coffee and water gets me through a day. So
Amen.
Okay. Yeah. God, are you a black coffee gal
I
too?
went back to black. Yeah, I did. I don't know why.
Not this gal. You need a little bit of
now
cream.
after hour drinks, of
Yeah,
course, I have
for
my
sure.
I have my own. I'm definitely the thing you wear on your head, the crown, is kind of the choice.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Just like in ice, just plain.
With water, absolutely.
Yeah, I see that in movies all the time, and they just make it look so smooth.
And
And
I'm
just like they just like, yeah, I'll do it. And I'm like,
Even the flavored ones, like the peach, and isn't there like a green apple?
Oh, yeah.
God.
like my face, like in the movies, so like they don't even wince.
know.
They're just like it's like water.
I know everyone's like, "Oh, you're gonna love this," I'm
And
like,
they look so good, just
no.
shaking their little
Yeah,
glass.
no.
And I'm like, I try.
"No, thanks, can't do it."
First time beer drinker. Over
Yeah.
here. Okay, and leave us with your favorite quote off the top of your head.
I lie on the field exhausted, victorious. I mean, it's a huge, long old quote from Vince Lombardi, but I lie on the field exhausted in
like
victory. So it's one of my favorite.
That's really
That
beautiful.
was good.
So,
That was
I
awesome.
always felt like when I walked off the field, I always told the kids, and I said, I get 30 seconds. I said, my 30 seconds, my payday is when you guys win and I walk to midfield to shake that other coach's hand. I get a gloat. I get a smile on my face. I get to reach out.
Right now.
I get to shake his hand, and then I'm right back to work. Now it's turned my attention to next week. But that 30 seconds, that's my moment. We all have our rituals. That was
Yes,
one of mine. We could talk forever.
Yes.
my
gosh.
I
we'll
had
just
that.
have you back.
We'll
just say this was part one.
Part one.
Yeah. Of 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go to another ritual of mine. 38 Special is at the Chase County Fair. I never stepped on the field to coach a game as a head coach without listening to Hold On Loosely by 38 Special. It's the last thing I listened to when I put my headphones off, because that song had a message for me to so if you ever so we all have our little quirks, but that 30 seconds and to be exhausted, because when I got done with the game, I was exhausted.
Oh, same.
Exhausted.
Yeah, it's like you don't feel your body until it's like
No.
you're not even playing, but it's like for me, I'll wear really stupid shoes, and then I'm like after the game, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even walk.
You know what a game changer for me was finally realizing, and this was when I say we were so good, and Weiland Field had 3,500 people every night, I could yell at the top of my lungs and it didn't matter. They weren't hearing me. So finally along the way, I got smart enough to say, stop yelling and enjoy the moment instead of screaming over and over.
Yeah.
And then once I started enjoying it, I didn't have the migraine at the end of the
Right?
game.
Yeah.
I
It's
can
like, boy. Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much
Hey,
for
thanks
coming.
for having me. It was fun.
That was just so cool. And thank you, everybody, for listening in on another episode of Coaching Caffeine and Comedy. And I'm your host, Kaylee Sosa.